Here with me now, Avery Friedman, a civil rights attorney and law professor, and criminal defense attorney and law professor Richard Herman. This is such a sad story. I mean, your heart just goes out to everybody involved here. So, Aneo is back with his family in Indiana now, after being arraigned in a San Juan court this week and posting an $80,000 bail. So, Avery, no one disputes that this was tragic, but, the grandfather's actions, I mean, does it rise to the level of negligent homicide?
There you go. Is it a question of negligence or negligent homicide as the Puerto Rican law reads? And what's very important in order to understand that is a number of years ago, Puerto Rico changed the negligent homicide law. And it dealt with essentially the high crime rates in San Juan and around the island because of drug dealing. Negligent homicide deals essentially with drug-related or often alcohol-related behavior. This is appalling. The fact that Grandpa Sal is now charged with a crime, to me, sounds absolutely outrageous. The prosecutors are arguing, well, someone's dead and someone committed an accident. That's good enough. The fact is, it isn't. It requires gross negligence of the kind of behavior that this law intended to deal with, and that is with drug dealers. I think this case either has to be thrown out, or if the case goes to trial, you're going to see an acquittal.
So, Richard, how do you see it? Because Chloe's parents, they are behind the grandfather, and they say the little girl, I mean, he did this because the little girl has a fascination with glass and windows, and Aneo, often lifted her up, to the glass while at her older brother's hockey game, and I guess felt like it wanted to kind of mimic that whole experience, but prosecutors are arguing that that act in and of itself was negligent. How do you see it?
This was not a hockey game, Fred. This was a cruise ship, and there were 11 stories up. And wasn't this little child worth 10 seconds of due diligence? Because that's all it would have taken for this grandfather to inspect the windows to make sure they were all closed before he decided to put his child, who he was entrusted with the care for, up on that window ledge. 10 seconds would have saved her life. He didn't do that, Fred, and he had control over this child who was helpless. He had a higher degree of duty to protect her and to make her, keep her safe. And by putting her in this position, he created this event. Now, it's tragic. He's never going to recover from it. The family will never recover from it. But does the law just ignore the fact that he was entrusted with the care of this little child? He put her in a very dangerous situation just because he thought the window was closed. Was that reasonable for him to think that? Or was it more reasonable for him to take 10 seconds to check before he put his granddaughter up on that window ledge? I think he's going to be prosecuted. I think there will be some sort of plea deal, and I think that's how it's going to end. I don't think he's going to go to prison.
So a family attorney says, the charges filed against, the grandfather are really like pouring salt in the wound because, he feels terrible. The family feels terrible. And back in July, the little girl's parents gave an interview to NBC defending the grandfather, who they call Sam. Listen.
He was extremely hysterical. The thing that he has repeatedly told us is, I believe that there was glass. He will cry over and over. At no point ever has Sam ever put our kids in danger.
So, Avery, how helpful might that be in his defense?
I think that's a wonderful argument. And the fact is that most of the windows on the ship, Frederica, are stationary. They don't open. The idea of using a law that was amended in Puerto Rico to go after drug dealers when they're accidental homicides, essentially murders, being used by prosecutors there, to me, strikes me as not only heartless, but really appalling. And whether or not there's a plea deal or not, if this case does go to trial, if it does, all it takes is one parent or one grandparent, and I'm telling you, Frederica, Grandpa Sam is going to walk from this.
Richard, last word?
Well, the family was quick to file a wrongful death lawsuit against Royal Caribbean here. They want to try to get money out of this case, and
That's just cynical.
I think it's premature. I think it's very premature. There are criminal charges pending against the grandfather here. He has a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. He will not testify in any civil proceeding right now. And without his testimony, the plaintiffs can't prove their wrongful death case. So that's kind of ridiculous. And in addition to that, in any kind of civil litigation, Puerto Rico is a pure comparative negligence state. So that would mean when the jury decides who's responsible for this and what proportion, if they attribute 51% of the wrong here to the grandfather, they're precluded from any recovery. So again,
sad,
tragic case, Fred, very tragic, but he's going to be prosecuted. He should be prosecuted.
Right. Wow. Okay.
And he's going to win.
10 seconds, Fred. All it would have taken was 10 seconds to check the windows. That's
Terrible. All right. Avery
Didn't
Freeman.
even know about the window.
Yeah. Richard Herman.
You
Thank
should've.
you so much.
Okay, Fred.
Okay.
I know you're going to say more.
Yeah.
I'll just.
Right.
Anyway, good to see you guys. Take care.
Good to see you.
too.
Take
We'll be
care.
right back.